Hello and welcome to In the Field, a set of short interviews with composers, musicians, improvisers who are performing at the 11th Annual Outsound New Music Summit. I'm here with John Shiurba, who's performing on July 19th at the themed show, The Composer's Muse. So thanks for joining me here on this small impromptu program. So I've been talking with a number of the composers that are performing at on the Composers Night this year at the Summit, and I'm always curious to know what it was, maybe what some of your earliest memories of what brought you into exploring through music, playing music and having that part of your life.
When I was a kid, I was really into Elton John.
Oh yeah?
And that's what it was. There was one. I think it was Saturday Night's All Right for Fire. So there's one song with the electric guitar, just just the sound of like the overdriven electric guitar. I was just like, I want to do that. I just knew.
Right. How old were you then?
I was about 9, I'd say, and so my mom got me a cheap classical nylon string guitar and took me to lessons, which I hated at that point.
Sure.
I just wanted to I remember when I got the guitar home, I just set it on the bed and I was just doing stuff to it and scraping the strings and making, so like right off the bat, I was like, I don't want to learn all, I don't want to do all the work and learn how to read the notes and all that. Right. I just want to.
Well, so you've been preparing guitar ever since you were very.
Yeah, it's true. I guess there was a period where I went through the playing it normally, of course, but I started doing weird prepared guitar stuff from a pretty young age.
Yeah, I find that a lot of us in the community really let that child in us continue through to our adulthood, so to speak, in terms of our need to explore musically.
Yeah, I definitely have a history of doing weird stuff to the guitar, but
right.
And when I was a teenager, it was more like messing with pedals and getting weird feedback sounds, and then eventually I sort of developed this thing that I do now with the implements between the strings and stuff like that.
Okay. Were there individuals early on that helped to promote that, or? Yeah,
I mean, I feel like not exactly what I was doing. I mean, there's definitely, of course, there's a history of prepared guitar that I didn't even really know about until I was maybe in my 20s or something, when I sort of like got into through progressive rock and the Talking Heads led me to King Crimson, and that led me to Henry Cow, and then that led me to Frith, Frith is in Henry Cow, Frith and Derek Bailey, and and then also through Captain Beefheart I got into Albert Eiler and Eric Dolphy and John Coltrane. So it was all from outward spinning from rock. Like I never listened to the regular jazz. Right. And then got into the weird jazz. It was all spinning out from rock, and then the weird jazz led me back to the regular jazz. But anyway, in terms of guitar, I did I did a bunch of stuff, and then I found out that there was this guy called Keith Rowe in A&M that invented more or less what I was doing like 20 or 30 years ago, and of course is like a master of it. But I didn't intentionally steal his stuff.
Right. Well,
it was an accident.
Yeah. Right. Right. So that's interesting. So a lot of the extended forms of rock from that time period and led you to discover the outer reaches of free jazz or whatnot, avant-garde.
Yeah. I was always into the weirdest stuff, of that. So when I was into punk, I was into, I went the direction of the Talking Heads and Brian Eno. I always wanted to push, get the weirder thing. I don't know why. It's just my nature. I always wanted to, and so that just sooner or later that just leads to like Stockhausen and and Evan Parker or whatever. Just the further you go out, pretty soon you're you're at the whatever the end of the road is, and that the furthest out kind of.
Huh. So, was this like a personal discovery, or were you connected with others, like colleagues, friends?
Yeah, there was various friends along the way who like somebody says, "Oh, you like the Talking Heads? You should check out Brian Eno." Like, "Oh, who's Brian Eno?" And then or something like that. And like there was a guy that I went to high school with who he discovered Trout Mass Replica, the Captain Beefheart album, because he had the Rolling Stone record guide, and he would go through it, and any album that got 5 stars, he was like, there must be something good about it. And so he didn't buy all of them, but he would kind of go through it and buy any of the 5-star albums, and just even if he had no idea what was on it, because he thought it must be good in some way if it's got 5 stars.
Right.
And so he had the Captain Beefheart album, and when I was like, I don't know, 13 or something, it's just like the weirdest thing anyone had ever heard at that point. And so I loved it, of course. I had no idea, that it was, at the time, I had no idea that it wasn't just all improvised, and then as I kept listening to it, I started to listen less to it as a wacky thing and more as like, wow, something crazy is going on here, and it's like they're repeating it over and over, like, so there's really some heavy stuff here. And so but that's an example of just for some reason that friend of mine did that, and I would have I don't know how I would have ever heard Captain Beefheart. I mean, maybe eventually, but but it was at a young age, so it's kind of impressionable. Wow.
Okay. So just basically growing up and absorbing these musics within the time period that you were in, and then I'm curious as to what it was that brought you into the realm of composing within listening to a lot, playing a lot, and then what is that jump?
I think for me, I always thought I didn't really think about it as composing. I just from the first thing that I wanted to do as soon as I learned D and C or whatever was just make up a song, like, and so it was just, that was my inclination. It was, and they got more and more like actual songs, or like became more and more like actual writing. And so I don't think I ever sat down and made a distinction in my head between playing music and just making it up.
Right.
And then as I got older, and started forming bands and stuff, then I started to think about improvisation versus composition, I guess. I definitely had a time when I was maybe in must have been like my early 20s, where I was like, okay, I got my rock band, but I want to do this weird thing. So a friend and I had this band called Pain and Discomfort, and it was like our noise band. Like he had a sampler and kind of more like, not keyboard but electronics, and I just would scrape the spatula on my guitar, and it was and I had my echo pedal to like, and it was just like it was definitely improvised. That word never came into our into our vocabulary really, because I didn't really think of it was like my weird thing,
the weird
my noise thing or something. I don't know what I called it at that point. And then eventually, more through the rock stuff, I discovered some of the the improvised music people. Like I met Gino through Splatter Trio and Clubfoot, I guess, but because I was in a rock band that was playing with one of his bands, and and we actually played in a rock band before we ever did improv together.
Oh, okay.
And so
what rock band was that?
That was called Ebola Soup.
Oh, okay. It sounds familiar to me for some reason. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what year that would have been. Maybe the mid-90s sometime.
Okay.
And then so I don't think I ever really thought about it as composing versus improvising so much until later, and then it was a whole. Then it became this thing. Okay, I do my rock music, or I do my my more improvised oriented music, and they definitely satisfy two different urges for me. Sure. Like if I only did improv, I would go crazy. crazy because I need to have some outlet for my, organizational, like my mind is very, I like to,
put things in a box.
Really, I like to
tweak.
I like to tweak over things, like push notes around and be like, well, no, let's try that with a D. No, let's try that with an E flat. So, I think that at some point, that there were the two things, and they were very, they were satisfying a different thing, and then I felt the need to combine them, and so that's when I started doing 5x5, and where it's mostly improvised, but then we get to come together for this, and like just short, written music chunk, and then we go back to the improv.
Right.
And I've written a few completely through composed things, but I have a harder time with that. Not with writing it, but I have a harder time with working with musicians that way. Like I did a concert with SF Sound a few years ago, like 5 years ago or something, where it was completely through composed song cycle, and something about, I feel like, I wrote really good music and they played it really well, but something about the thing where, like, if I tell you exactly what to do, if you're a clarinet player like Matt Ingalls and I tell you exactly what to do, it might not be as good as if I tell you roughly what to do, and I mean, he would probably disagree, but but you know what I mean? Like, there's something about, like, being this, like, person who prescribes every single new one, the dynamic, the timbre, the whatever, all these different elements of every single note, and that happen, and I just, there's something about that I don't feel comfortable with. It's kind of, it makes me feel like this, like over, controlling kind of force, and I'd rather, I'd rather be like, try it like this, like, what would it sound? I'd rather just have an interaction with the musicians, and so that's what I'm trying to do for Outsound, is have, there's a whole lot of written music, but it's not like from beginning to end, it's not mapped out exactly, and so when something happens, if somebody plays one of the things, and maybe I'll have somebody else join them, or like.
Will you be directing?
I'm gonna be like conducting, prompting, directing
areas to play, similar to like So there's, for this project, there's 9 different sections, and in those 9 sections, there's 9 pieces. So there's a lot of information. Right.
And but I sort of have an idea of how it's gonna go. Like, it's going to hang on a skeleton of the main 9 pieces, and then the other ones are going to come in between. And I sort of have an idea of basically how it's going to unfold, but what actually happens in between there is left up to the creativity of the moment and the musicians.
The individual. Yeah. Cool. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and this project, I think I put that in on the description for the program, but it's all derived from the newspaper somehow. So I wrote the pieces based on these things called crypto quips, which is a puzzle. It's like in the comic section, and it has some gibberish text, and you're supposed to figure out, like, every time there's an M, that really stands for an E, and so you're supposed to solve the puzzle.
There's a code.
Yeah, it's a code basically. It's just it's in code, and so the main sections of this 9 piece are those crypto quips, where Polly's going to sing the gibberish text, and Hadley's going to sing the English text. And so the gibberish text is like, let me see.
Yeah, sure.
The gibberish text is, for example, etc. And the English text is like, yesterday I heard one sandhill say to another, "Are you doing anything tonight?" So it's a really silly, silly quip, And, and so there's this 2 things that are one's kind of a pretty lilting thing, and one's kind of a.
Interesting. So they happen.
They happen simultaneously. Yeah. I mean, they kind of call and respond a little bit, so it's not complete chaos, but.
Right.
Yeah. So
and they'll have that link. The link of the code. Connected to the words,
right?
So,
and then other things I did were like I cut out headlines and wrote just wrote down the rhythm of how I would, say it. You know, if Afghanistan or something would be like, or you know what I mean.
Right,
so
sure.
I just wrote out the rhythms as I would kind of normally say it, or you know.
Oh, right.
And then, so the musicians won't see the text anymore. All they'll see is the rhythm, but it's just you know. And then I did all these kind of games. I don't know if you can't see it over there, but I have a whole pile of newspaper and I was combing through it like, oh, here's a graph. This is cool. So then I had a whole collection of graphs and charts, you know, and just that's one of the territories for people to invest, you know, try to investigate. Just you know, like there's one line here and one line here. So maybe you think of this one as the pitch contour, and this one is the dynamics or something, you know, like whatever, you know, gets your, you know, however that gets your attention and whatever you feel about it, that's what you play.
Are you also playing? Are you going to play 9 pieces, or are they just pieces?
It's a suite of it's not exactly 9 pieces. It's really sort of 81 pieces because
9 times.
There's 9. Okay. Yeah, well, actually, it's more than that. 9 times.
9 cubes?
No, no, it's not 9 cubes.
Okay.
It's 9. Yeah, 9 times 9. Okay. Because there's 9 categories of pieces.
Right.
And there's 9 in each category.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I mean, sometimes that's like a whole piece, like I just showed you,
Sure.
and then sometimes it's just one of the graphs. That's you know that's one of the 9 graphs. You know, so it's not like a
right. So you can pick and choose
necessarily a piece.
Right.
So I will be like I'll have a card that'll be like section A, number 1, and so and then you know, or I might choose those 2 people and be like section D, you know, and then take these people and say section H or something.
So it's directed, composed, improvisational.
Yeah.
You know, it's all the elements put together into the performance based on 9.
Right. Right. And then one of the categories is just plain old improvisation, the 9th one.
Right.
So that's also going to be a factor.
Excellent.
And I think I'm going to reserve that just pure improvisation to like a soloist between, you know, like there's going to be 9 solos, so to speak, in the various parts of the piece. But while that person's soloing, somebody else, the other people might be playing section F, or you know, they might be doing the rhythms or you know, something else within the piece. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it has to be experienced, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it that's a 9 is that it's all written with a 9-note scale.
Oh. Okay.
So there's no F sharp, there's no C sharp, and there's no B flat. And that part of it, I was inspired by. There's a French writer named Georges Perec, and he wrote. He was really into setting aside these sort of games to sort of put himself in a box and then try to get out of it. You know, try to write. You know, so one of his most famous or infamous books is called, in English it's called A Void, 2 words, and it's like a 300-page novel that doesn't use the letter E ever.
Really?
Not only in French but also in the English translation, there's no E in the entire book.
Wow.
It's brilliant. So it's like that's what I wanted to do, and I was like, well, it's too easy just to leave out 1 note. So you know, and also I wanted to play with right on the edge of what sounds like you can still get kind of an atonal sound, but then I don't, you know, so I think 8 would have been too much like a scale.
Sure.
And so a 9-note thing is right on the edge of, can you really tell that it's not 12 tone?
Right. Oh, right.
You know, I think you can. But it's not, so I think if it had 10 notes, that would have been one too many, because then it would start to sound almost atonal, you know, or 12 tone, not atonal necessarily, but you know, I think with 9 you definitely notice that you're. I mean, I don't think you'll necessarily go like, oh, they're not playing F sharp, but I think it'll sound different than 12 tone music, you know, because there's only 9.
So will the improvisers also be?
They're supposed to, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I told them a long time, almost as soon as they joined on, I told them, start practicing the scale.
Right, because if you deviate, I'm going to come back. No.
It's interesting. I also have a rock band which I use that scale exclusively called Vegan Butcher. And, yeah, you saw it. And a couple times when we've been playing, I accidentally played a C sharp. You know, like I went for the D sharp and just spaced it out, and it was like, whoa!
Yeah.
It was out. It sounded really weird to me. Like I wasn't sure if I would know if like the bass player played a C sharp. You know, like would my ear go like foul? You know.
Right.
But I definitely heard it when I did it. And then I looked down and I was like, whoops, you know, like
oh wow! So you've trained yourself to play that scale so much so that now you hear if it deviates from that.
Yeah, I think I think I heard it before I realized that, you know, my ear was like, whoa, that's out, and then I realized my finger was 2 frets, you know, in the wrong spot. So anyway, that's the other 9. So there's 9 people and there's 9 notes and there's 9 of everything.
9 of everything.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I heard you mention graphs. I'm wondering if there's a visual art component or other art not musical that helps to influence your works, especially in this case or in other cases that you've done.
Yeah, I don't know about explicitly. I mean, there is a graphic component of this, but I wouldn't call the newspaper, clippings art, really.
Right.
But I love using text to write music, and I feel like it just pushes me out of my normal thing. So if I'm starting with a text, then it's just like it's got to work with this text, and so it's automatically something different than I would normally do.
Right.
If I just got out the guitar and went, if it had to be, I heard one sand hill say to another. Like as soon as you've already written music, even that's different than you would have normally written. So, and it's also a catalyst, somewhere to start, and something. Sure. It's something to do, like to just start. Sometimes just getting started on a project for me, I get so caught up in like, what's the concept, and so. I can't start until I have the concept, and then I'm sitting around going, well, I should be writing music right now, but I'm sitting around trying to think of the concept, and so like using a text, just there it is. Let's start with that, and that's the concept, and then you let it unfold around that. In fact, I wrote some of these pieces before I decided to use the 9-note scale, and then I had to go back and fix them.
Oh.
And that was really interesting because I'm such a tweaker with notes, and I just sit there like, D, E flat, D, E flat, D, E flat. Oh, okay, E flat. And to have to go back to those pieces that I know that I did that on, and just be like, well, there's a C sharp, so now it's a C, or now it's a D, or I'll move this whole section, down a half step so that there's no, so that I don't have to have the C sharp or something. I basically have to push notes around and change something that I tweaked over endlessly. So it's kind of it was a good exercise for me because it was just like, well, it's in a 9-note scale, so there's no way around it. That C sharp has to go.
That's gotta go.
So I think at first it really hurt, and then I started to be like, well, this is what I'm doing. Either I can use this music for another project, or I can move the C sharp.
Just have to accept it.
And it was kind of an interesting. It was not my normal way of working to to impose that. But back to the we were talking about art somehow, other art.
Well, yeah, it sounds like the spoken or the written word, which many consider to be an art in its own, is a non-musical art form of influence. So,
definitely. I'm definitely I'm sort of an avid reader, super bookworm guy, and I love literature. So that's a big thing. I love film too. I wouldn't say that my work is like directly influenced. Like I'm not going to see a Bergman film and then go write a piece or something.
Right. Okay.
But I think that just being the fact that I love Bergman, I think comes out in my in me somehow probably.
Right.
But I'm not I haven't done a lot of graphics. I mean, even there's some graphic scores in this, but I'm not a super visual art oriented person in terms of my music. Like I don't have I've never, you know, I can't draw to save my life. So I've never done, you know, any sort of like drawing that was like, or painting or something that,
sure.
you know, was a graphic kind of thing. It's just not, I don't have that inclination.
Okay.
But I do love graphic scores, you know, some of them.
Right.
You know, especially like the Cardew, I think is one of the most beautiful things. You know, who cares if it's even a piece of music? Just to look at the score to the treatise is just amazing. You know. That's
right. That's right. So. And you've worked some. You had some experience working with Anthony Braxton, who likes a lot of you know, mathematical, graphical.
Yeah. Well,
some,
you know,
at least some of it.
Some of it, yeah. When the projects that I did with him were, you know, they were straight notation pretty much.
Straight up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely some parts of it, you know, of his stuff that is graphic for sure, but also mixed with a lot of straight notation. So, yeah, I like that. It's not my main focus, you know, but there is a little bit of that. I wanted a little bit of that in this piece. Like I wanted to like go outside of my box, of, you know, try to not. And there's some parts of it that are just. There's a series of numbers which I cut out of the 50 most like overpaid or the 50 highest paid executives, and you know, like there was a thing in the New York Times
I'll go with overpaid,
where they actually listed, and these people, I only chose the ones that were 9 figures. So
okay.
Think about that for a second. 9 figures in 1 year. Anyway, because I was looking for a series of 9 numbers, right?
Sure.
So. And that's one of the sections is these strings of numbers, and you know, so it's just like very open-ended what you're going to do with the number. Well, it's not open-ended what you're going to do with them, but it's just a different way to make music than to really tweak on the, you know, on every note. And that's what I'm trying to get at, that part of myself that can let go of tweaking every single note and like have a little bit of fun with it and leave some latitude in the you know, for something besides improvisation that has structure, but it's not so much structure that, you know, that I feel like it's suffocating the music.
So these are all new pieces, basically. You're going to be debuting these at the summit this year. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful
thing.
That's what we try to do. We try to present things that no one's going to have seen before, hopefully, and that they have to come and experience that at this particular event. So. Great. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. World premiere.
World premiere. That's what I think I said that in the promotion in LA anyway. So. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah. It was a pleasure.
I look forward to your show.
All right.
And we'll be back with another episode. Just click through YouTube. Thank you.